He that increaseth knowledge increaseth sorrow, right? And I'm starting to realize this at my young 28 age, right? I'm starting to realize this more and more as I maneuver through life and all of its complexities, right? And for you guys who may not know what I'm referring to the book of Ecclesiastics, right? Uh, Old Testament, right? King Solomon was one of the most wisest rulers of Israel to ever exist. King Solomon prayed for knowledge, he prayed for wisdom, and the Lord imposed that wisdom on him so that he can rule effectively, right? It made him an effective leader, basically, right? He was able to rule with efficiency and accuracy because of all the wisdom and knowledge that God had given him and that he had prayed for, right? But King Solomon soon came to realize that with all the knowledge that he had, with all the wisdom that he had, right? Life wasn't as enjoyable as he may have thought that it would have been with the wisdom and the knowledge that he had. And I think I'm coming into, not saying that I'm King Solomon, but I would explain it or describe it as the King Solomon effect, right? There's a lot of things that I understand that many people don't understand. I see things completely different than the general population or normies see it, right? And on the surface, it's fine and dandy, right? It's fine and dandy that I have this knowledge. It's fine and dandy that I can explain things in a way that I can explain it. It's fine and dandy that I'm 28 years old and a lot of older people would consider elders, don't even act or think on the same level that many young people think on, right? It's fine and dandy, but then here comes the suffering part, right? Here comes the loneliness part. Here comes the ostracization, if that's a word. Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? The ostracization or being ostracized from the world because you don't conduct yourself the way that everybody else conduct themselves. You're not thinking about the normie and low vibrational things that everybody else is thinking about, right? You think on a higher level, right? You think on a high vibrational level. You act on a high vibrational level. The things that normie people are entertained by, you're not entertained by, right? And this is what King Solomon came to realize, right? Vanity, 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 right? King Solomon, he involved himself in relationships, multiple wives. He involved himself in drinking and, prostitutes and, what have you, right? He did it all. He did everything up under the sun, but still couldn't find happiness and joy in his life, right? However, that same wisdom allowed him to be a great leader. That same wisdom allowed him to be a great ruler, right? He was able to see through bullshit. He was able to see enemies for who they were. He was able to maneuver through the fake faces, the fake smiles, and the frowns and the double minded and the two-faced. He was able to see through all of that, right? Which made him great. But he suffered. He suffered tremendously. And I would describe myself having the King Solomon effect. And I don't know, maybe I will get through this phase, right? Maybe I will. Maybe I'll soon come to a realization of some kind of joy, right? Maybe I'll get there. But as far as right now, I see exactly where King Solomon was coming from. I see exactly what he was going through, right? He's seen the world in a way that other people weren't just seeing it. He was able to bring people together with his wisdom alone, with his knowledge alone, right? He was able to do that because of the wisdom and the knowledge that he so prayed for, right? I'm seeing things exactly for what they are in his life. It's depressing knowing that you can't save most people. It's depressing knowing that people would rather die in their own ignorance. It's depressing, right? It's depressing knowing that people don't go about their way to just do a little research. Even with all the great technology that we have, people don't go out their way to do what needs to be done to increase knowledge themselves, right? Ignorance is surely bliss. Sometimes I believe that ignorance is better, right? Because with ignorance, at least you have the excuse of not knowing. At least you have the the privilege to live in bliss. I don't have that privilege. I'm too deep in. I'm too far in, right? My mind is never at rest. My soul is never at rest, right? Because I just see things the way I don't know how else to explain it. I see things for what they are. I see the realities of life, not the delusions that people like to live under. Y'all remember the first Matrix when Neo was first introduced to the reality, right? He went to his office job, he worked his little 9 to 5, and the little pleasure that he did get out of life, it was minuscule, right? He couldn't see things. He always had a feeling about the realities of life. He always knew that there was something greater to all of this shit, but he just couldn't figure it out by himself alone, right? Until he took the red pill. He was introduced to the red pill, right? The red pill being the truth, the red pill being reality, right? The red pill being the world for what it is, right? And when he took that pill, he seen the world for the fallen dystopia that it actually was. He seen it for the shithole that it actually was. He seen the destruction for what it actually was. And he got sick. He was sick, literally, physically, emotionally, mentally. How could he live this long and this hidden world? The blinders were right over his eyes. How could he not have seen this? How could he not have seen this? But it was too late to go back. Morpheus told him, once you take this, there's no going back. There's no going back to your regular life after this. There's no going back to seeing things in an ignorant way. Ignorance is bliss. There's no going back to that anymore. Once your mind open up, right? Once your eyes open up, you see things for what they actually are. And it's suffering. Wise people, lone wolves, sigma males, they get along with no one. They're too intelligent, right? They know too much, right? They break down situations in a way that most people can't break them down in, right? Every single thing that you do requires thought, requires a conscious thought. You can't just do things unconsciously. It's not in your nature, right? Whoever I'm talking to, you know if I'm talking about you or not. You can't act in an unconscious way. It's not in your nature, right? Every single step that you make requires a thought. Every single decision that you make requires a thought. Every time you talk to somebody, it requires a thought. When you're picking and choosing who you want to talk to, it requires a thought, right? It requires a conscious effort. Even the negative things that you do, it requires a conscious effort. Both positive and negative. It requires a conscious effort. Suffer. Life is to suffer. To live life is to suffer. I'm starting to understand that, right? Do we find joy in the suffering? Absolutely. Can you have more joy and happiness than others? Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. But you have to suffer to find that joy and happiness. And I believe just most people won't or can't find that joy and happiness, right? Because unfortunately, joy and happiness is for sale, right? And of course, some people are going to get in here like, no, you can enjoy life. I've seen poor people. I've seen poor people and homeless people laugh and smile and enjoy life. It's not always about money. Bullshit. Bullshit. True to an extent, but bullshit. They're suffering. They're truly suffering. You think impoverished people are not suffering? Sure, there's moments where we can share a beer and drink it up and laugh and hee ha ha, but guess what? You got to go back to reality. You got to go back to reality, buddy. You got to go back to that meaningless job. You got to go back to not being paid enough. You got to go back to them bills, right? Just because you smiled and laughed, that didn't make those collection calls go away, right? The bill collectors didn't go away just because you cracked a smile, just because you were happy for a moment. It didn't disappear, right? They're suffering. Best believe they're suffering. And most people won't attain the joy and happiness that I'm referring to, right? To live life is to suffer. However, you can find meaning, right? And joy and happiness within that suffering, right? And only a minority of people have found that. Now, it doesn't require you having $1 billion to find that, right? It doesn't take that much, but it takes some. It takes some, right? And that's what I'm fighting for. That's what I'm fighting for. I'm fighting for the joy in suffering. I'm fighting for that happiness within the suffering, right? And because in this state that I'm in, right? In the current environment that I'm in, I can't do it. I can't do it. People are too stupid for me. I can't do it. The women are too uh, for me. I can't do it. Right? The environment is too for me. I need to find a new environment. Maybe a new land, maybe a new country. Somewhere where the collective mind is not as torn, where the collective mind is not as what it is. Somewhere where the programming is not so deep as it is here. Where the propaganda is not so deep as it is here. And that's another thing. People can't see the propaganda for what it is. People can't see the bullshit for what it is. People can't read between the lines. You know? They don't want to read between the lines either. They don't want to see things for how things really are. Because people are sheep. People are sheep-minded. They are quick to put themselves into groups, right? To point the finger at the other group, right? I told you, most adults never grow up, right? We stay in one big high school. America's one big ass high school. One big ass junior high school. That's all it is. Nothing more, nothing less. It's full of a bunch of adults who never grew up because of their traumatized childhood, right? No one ever took the time out to dig deep. This is why I don't talk to people. The majority of people don't have the wherewithal to dive deep into themselves, to pull out how they really feel and invest into how they really feel, to investigate how to get rid of certain things that don't belong within themselves. People rather be validated by other torn and broken people who are not willing to do the work. This is where we are. It's the King Solomon effect. I'm coining that. The King Solomon effect. And if you're wise beyond your years, or if you're a wise elder, you have knowledge, and the wisdom and knowledge that you have, it prevents you from formulating friendships. It prevents you from getting close with people. It prevents you from having a social life because you realize that most people are on bullshit, especially in today's day and age, especially in today's modern day and age. Most people are selfish. Most people are only in it for themselves, right? Which is, a basic survival mechanism for humanity. Yes, self-preservation, we get it. But on an intellectual level, we're supposed to be far exceeding that in a modern day society, but many people haven't risen above that genetic code, right? Most people haven't reprogrammed themselves out of the original programming that they've had all their life. They accept the program for what it is. I don't accept anything for what it is. I don't accept anybody for face value. And some could say maybe that's a problem. That's my problem, right? It is my problem. It is my problem. And I'm accepting my problem for what it is. I'm not normal. I'm not. I'm not regular. I'm not. I don't think how the majority thinks. I don't. I don't want to think how the majority think. I don't. Right? Which has cost me relationships. It's cost me social circles. Right? It cost. And that cost is suffering. Right? I have suffered. Am suffering because of the way that I think. Right? It is what it is. I feel like King Solomon. Great leader, right? Great ruler. And I believe that about myself. The after pill will be worldwide. The after pill will be great, right? The after pill will be unstoppable. I'll have an army of my own, right? An army of free thinkers, an army of wise men and women, right? Who will accept life for what it is, change the things that can be changed, making the world a better place for all, right? And that's an after pill. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.